Pop Seagulls Publishing, in conjunction with Stephen B. Pearl, presents a reading from Love, Time, Space, and Magic, an anthology of wonder.
Melanie in the Underworld. When Adil didn't come home, Melanie tried not to be suspicious. When he didn't come home the next day, she tried not to worry. When the police came to her door and told her that she'd have to identify the body, she would not let herself think of the worst. It was only at the funeral that she greeted and called reality by name, that Adil was dead, and it was up to her to bring him back. They'd met at a seminar back of her neighboring bookstore, an informal lecture on running a small e-business from home that she'd been doing for several years. Melanie hadn't felt comfortable speaking, but the bookstore owner convinced her just to tell some illustrated anecdotes. She ended up speaking for an hour and a half. Adil approached her in the coffees and cookies section of the evening, while she was dropping down from the euphoria of a room full of people absorbing knowledge from her. Quite enjoyed her speech, he had said, smiling from his eyes. Her enthusiasm for her work was infectious, he had continued, sipping coffee from the styrofoam cup. Melanie doesn't remember what she said in response. She'd been too busy watching his lips and imagining how they would feel. The weather did not cooperate during the funeral. It was clear and bright, a sunny late April day, with the lilacs that ring the cemetery in full bloom, and lily of the valley blanketing the shady parts of the grounds. Wafts of gorgeous scents drifted like the chestnut blossoms, settling on the mourner's shoulders. It was obscene. She didn't speak much to anyone, either to her family or to Addie's. They were too mired in grief, too tethered to the idea that he was dead. They were, in fact, defeated. Not Melanie. Her mother spoke to her privately, concerned by Melanie's lack of hysteria, which her mother called grief processing, big on psychobabble buzzwords. And Melanie calmly explained that she was not grieving, as there was nothing to mourn. Adil's absence was temporary, and wasn't she, Melanie, a stronger woman than that, not let a man's momentary disappearance from her life cause her to become emotionally unhinged? Her mother's expression convinced her that perhaps she'd better keep the rest of the plan to herself. So this is later in the story after she's met a messenger of the gods, essentially, and he's shown her how to enter into the Underworld, which might be familiar to some people who are from the area. Through the revolving door, she emerged into an atrium, open and wide, with high ceilings, every inch of it tiled in white ceramic squares. It was in a sad state of disrepair. Parts of the walls crumbled, many tiles cracked, and a thick layer of dust over everything, except in a clear path in a straight line from the door to what Melanie realized was a platform. She walked towards it, her footsteps clear and impressively distinct, as though in thick regolith. She stopped at the edge, a few feet south from the shiny pathway, and looked down. Sure enough, there were tracks. It was a subway station. She looked behind her, and there, sandblasted into the wall, in the geometric script easily recognized the city over, was the word Grange. But there was no Grange station on either of the lines. Then again, this was a clearly unused section. There was a rumbling overhead, and dust showered down in curtains. A couple of tiles fell as well, shattering, the noise startlingly loud. And then all was thick silence. Motes dancing around her with each breath, she considered her option. She didn't bother to look behind her at the door. She knew that the spines only turned the one way, and that the words above would now say, "No exit." So that left either waiting for the train. She disliked this idea immensely, and although she couldn't explain why, the idea of waiting in the shiny spot at the end of the trail filled her with dread. No, that wasn't an option, which only left one. Making sure that her bag was comfortable against her shoulder, Melanie clambered down gingerly off the platform, being careful to avoid the tracks. She knew the third rail was electrified, or at least it was with normal trains and normal tracks. She couldn't honestly say which one was the third, and she felt it prudent to avoid all three. She began to make her way towards the tunnel, keeping as close to the wall as she could. She peeked around the crumbling corner and could make out two round circles of light coming closer. The signals at the junction turned red. It was not a subway train coming towards her, she realized. It was a streetcar, soon confirmed by the clang of its bell, but of an old-fashioned style that Melanie barely recognized as belonging to her city. It was rounded where the usual ones were angular, and smaller. The top half was cream, its lower red, trimmed in chrome like gaudy wainscoting. It rattled towards her and then creaked to a halt, the front doors opening with the wheeze. She jogged up to it, her right arm pressing her toque to her to keep from clapping. An older white man with graying, receding hair and bristling beard, clad in TTC livery, poked his head out into the tunnel. "This ain't the station," he exclaimed, surprised or irritated at her. She couldn't tell the difference. "You're supposed to wait at the station. What sort of moron?" He trailed off and pushed up and back his flat-bottomed peaked transit cap. "You're alive," Melanie nodded. He just stood with his hands on his hips, regarding her very frankly as though she were a dog on her hind legs or an electronic device that was particularly newfangled. "Well, doesn't that just take the cake? Lois, we got a live one. Look at that. Look at that." Lois, the driver, similarly attired in burgundy, was slouched over her controls, propped up on one board elbow, chin against her hand. Melanie cleared her throat after the silence stretched on too far. Are you taking passengers? I paid my fare." She momentarily cursed herself for not getting a cheaper transfer, and then immediately realized the inanity of that statement. "Well, now, I don't know about that, miss," he said finally, regarding her more beetily now. "You might have paid a fare, but that doesn't necessarily... What I mean is, you're not at a station. We're only supposed to pick up people at stations, isn't that right, Lois?" Lois. Silence. Slight raising of the shoulders. "I could go back to the station." Even as Melanie said that, she knew how wrong a suggestion it was. "Or I could just keep walking, I guess." "Well, we can't have you doing that either," the conductor replied, peevish. "You've put me in a quandary, all right, in being here. I've been a conductor on this line for quite a while now, never before. Well, there was that one fellow, but I wasn't on duty. Never mind him. Tickets on this line are strictly one-way, miss. No passbacks, no doubling up on fares. And I don't think this is the right line for you anyway, since you're breathing and all. Back me up here, Lois." Lois. Silence. This was the time that Melanie knew was an opportunity to offer a bribe. Or at least she assumed it was. She'd never really bribed anyone in her life, not even doormen at clubs, and she wasn't sure what a suitable offer was, given the situation anyway. "You said someone did this before?" she asked, looking for a loophole of precedence. He scratched his receding hairline under his flat-brimmed burgundy cap. "Well, yes." "And you let him on?" she pressed. "Not me, but yes." He hunched his shoulders and crossed his arms in front of his chest. It was all the signal that Melanie needed. She started up the stairs, but he blocked her way. "Hey now," he said warningly, but no further threat was forthcoming. "We could get in a lot of trouble for this, couldn't we, Lois?" Lois shrugged in silence once more, and as soon as Melanie moved up to the second step, pulled the lever to close the door. She sounded the bell twice, and out in the tunnel the lights turned green. The old streetcar lurched to a stop. Staggering at first, but quickly finding her transit legs, Melanie found a seat on the empty bench, underneath the swaying leather loops that dangled down for the benefit of standing patrons. The conductor sat directly behind her, behind the driver, glaring, thwarted. The rest of the car was empty. A one-way trip.
This reading has been brought to you by Love, Time, Space, and Magic from Pop Seagull Publishing and the works of Stephen B. Pearl. For more on Stephen B. Pearl and his works, please visit www.stephenpearl.com. That's www.stephenpearl.com.